Bonjour Annie,
Bonjour.
comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Et toi?
Très bien, très bien. So before you took on
I'm
that,
so glad you know that was the extent of my French.
yes, well, it was perfect. It was perfect. Before you took on that role of Jane Austen, what did you find out about her that most people don't know?
Well, considering that what most people know about Jane Austen is the common biography that she died when she was 41, wrote 6 novels, and never married, quite a bit. I found out that Jane, I guess I had always imagined that Jane was very similar to Elizabeth Bennet, and then I found out she wasn't. Her brother described Jane as being a galvanizing figure, that when she met people, people either loved her or they completely disliked her right away. That she was very particular and a little difficult to get along with, but nonetheless quite a lovely person.
So how did you step into Jane's shoes for a movie? What do you do for that? How do you become Jane?
Well, assuming that I was successful in my endeavor, I moved to England for a month before we started filming to immerse myself in the process of discovering my character. And I worked with a dialect coach for 6 hours a day. And I had to learn to play the piano, and of course I had to learn how to dance and do calligraphy, and I had a lot of research to do. I reread all of her books. I got to read her original letters, so it was a pretty intense research period, but very fun. That's my dog.
What's his name?
Her name is Esmeralda.
Esmeralda. You belong to a small group of people like Gwyneth Paltrow, like Renée Zellweger, who are American actresses who are able to switch to English. So first, give me a sample of how you sound in English, and second, as you answer the question, do you feel a different person when you talk with a different accent?
I actually can't give you a sample of how I sound simply because. Well, once upon a time, I would have leapt at the chance to do a British accent, but now having done it and realized how difficult it is to do a perfect British accent, I can't I'm too self-conscious to ever just start doing it. Put a couple drinks in me, we'll talk. But with a British accent, no, water. You're French.
You think it's water?
You're supposed to know about wine. And then, did I become another person? I believe I did. It's not that I'm a method actor and was pretended to be Jane Austen for 2 months, but when the film was done, I felt something release inside of me, and all of a sudden, knowing that I didn't have to focus on having an accent, knowing that I didn't have to focus on what was happening in Jane's life at that moment, I felt like I became myself again, and that in some ways, though, now when I was myself, I was playing a character, that I was more comfortable being close to who my characterization of Jane. I was closer to that than I actually was myself, if that makes any sense.
It does. Last time interview was for the Devils Wear Prada, where you had to wear a lot of very fashionable clothes. This time you also wear interesting clothes, but very different. So how does it compare to go from the Devils Wear Prada to this one in terms of...
Well, Devil Wears Prada was obviously more high fashion, and even though Jane was interested in fashion, apparently she was for an account I read of her suggested that she was really into clothes, but she didn't have a lot of fashion sense, which I thought was kind of funny. So I guess in that respect, a lot of Jane's clothes were a little bit more down to earth. Some of the high fashion that Andy wears. That being said, it was fun to figure out that. Based on the amount of money that Jane had at her disposal for clothes, she would only be able to have a few of her dresses made, and that she would actually have to try to make some of her own. So I thought about the difference, and I imagined that Jane was a very impatient seamstress. So I got to use my imagination more, funny enough, with becoming Jane.
Could you have lived in that era? Was this something that you could conceivably?
I think.
have done?
Oh yeah, I think. Do you mean could I go back in time, or
having to wear a corset?
Yeah, I mean, if that was part of life back then, I think you do whatever you need to do to live. And that being said, I'm very happy that we don't have to wear corsets, and that women have a lot more independence nowadays.
Now you just wear high heels.
But those are fun.
With your boyfriend Raffaello Folieri?
Folieri, yes.
You have done interesting charity work. Tell me, what is your next project and why is it an important part of your life?
Last year we vaccinated. Well, first of all, our charity is only 2 years old, so we're still figuring out. We're writing our own rules, playing it by ear. And last year we vaccinated 1,000 kids in Nicaragua, and this year we vaccinated 200,000 kids in Honduras. So we're getting bigger. It's very exciting. We're trying to vaccinate children under 5 in Central America against hepatitis A. And when we accomplish that, who knows what else we'll do. Our goal is to improve the lives of children in the world. And as to why it's important to me, well, it seems fairly self-evident why that's a good idea. There's, aside from getting a nice restaurant or getting a table at a nice restaurant and occasionally getting free clothes, fame can begin to seem very empty. And if you don't take certain steps to use it for something good, it can really consume you and make you completely self-obsessed. And so I think it's good to use it for something good, not only because it benefits the world, of course that's the number one reason, but also it helps you to realize that the world is much bigger than whether or not there are bigger problems in the world than being trailed by paparazzi.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You have been critical of the Catholic Church on a few occasions, and have you asked Raffaello if he could intervene with the Vatican and change?
I actually don't talk
things?
about my religious beliefs anymore
No.
in public because it's very difficult to hear things you care very deeply about misinterpreted in the press, so I don't talk about my religious beliefs anymore.
Looking at all the roles you have done, and you have done quite a few very, very good films, did you find a common thread between the different characters that you have chosen or that you were given that go from one character to the other? Is there some kind of
No, in the early days, yes, when I was basically playing the same character over and over and over. But from Brokeback Mountain to Prada, now becoming Jane, and a few other roles that I play, no. Now that I've done Get Smart as well, in particular, I guess a common thread would be that I play women that in some senses don't fit in with their surroundings, that there's a part of them that lives on just outside the center, that don't feel comfortable in the center of things. But now with Get Smart, I play a woman who is in no way repressed and will never allow herself to be repressed, so I guess I'm breaking away from playing those kinds of roles too.
Well, you are excellent in this one.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure to see you.